There is a Toyota in my shop right now with 289,000 miles on its original transmission, and that transmission has never been flushed even once. The dealer across town wanted $1,200 to flush it last year, and the honest truth is, the flush probably would have killed it. So why did the old mechanic who trained me in Osaka ban flush machines from his shop entirely? And what did he do instead for about $60 a year? My name is Lu Feng. I am 61 years old. I have run a one-bay transmission shop for 34 years, and before that I spent 6 years as an apprentice in a garage in Osaka, Japan, under a mechanic named Mr. Sato. He was 70 when I met him. He had hands like old rope, and he never raised his voice, and the cars that left his shop ran longer than cars have any right to run. Taxis with 500,000 kilometers on the clock. Delivery vans that outlived the careers of the men who drove them. And in 6 years, inside that building, I never once saw a transmission flush machine. Not one. He would not allow it through the door. Now let me tell you about a man named Dave, because Dave is probably you. Dave came into my shop last month with a 2014 Camry, 128,000 miles, running fine. He was pale. He had a printout from the dealership folded in his hand. The service advisor had shown him a little glass vial of his transmission fluid, dark as old coffee, sitting next to a vial of fresh pink fluid, and told him his transmission was at risk. The cure was a power flush, a cleaning additive package, and a conditioner treatment. The price on the printout was $1,190 plus tax. Dave asked me if he should do it. He had already half decided to pay. He told me his brother-in-law lost a transmission on the highway 2 years ago, and the fear of that had been riding in the back seat with him ever since. I understand the fear. The fear is real. But the cure they were selling him was not a cure. I told him to sit down, and I told him the same thing I am about to tell you. Because 30 years ago, I was the man holding the flush machine. And I have a confession to make. Quick word before I go further. The old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book you can buy in our pinned comment below. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. In my second year running my own shop, a woman brought me a Dodge Caravan with 140,000 miles and transmission fluid that smelled like burnt toast. I hooked up my brand new flush machine, pushed 14 quarts of fresh fluid through her transmission in 40 minutes, took her $220, and felt like a hero. 11 days later, that van came back to me on a tow truck. Third gear was gone. Just gone. I paid for her rebuilt transmission out of my own pocket. $2,300 in 1990s money, and I did not sleep right for a month. I wrote a letter to Mr. Sato in Osaka and told him what I had done. His reply came 3 weeks later, and it was 4 sentences long. The last sentence said this: "You did not clean the transmission. You disturbed it." I read that letter maybe 100 times before I truly understood it. And the day I finally understood it, I unplugged the flush machine, rolled it into the corner of the shop, and I have not turned it on since. That was 29 years ago. So what did that machine actually do inside that old Caravan? What did Mr. Sato understand that my trade school never taught me, and that the dealership selling Dave a $1,190 service either does not know or does not say? That is where we go next. And I promise you it changes how you look at every service quote you ever get again. Here is the thing nobody explains to you at the service counter. Your automatic transmission holds a lot more fluid than you think. A Camry like Dave's holds close to 10 quarts. But when you pull the drain plug, only about 3.5 quarts come out. That is all. The rest of it, more than half, is trapped inside a part called the torque converter and up inside the valve body and the cooler lines. The drain plug cannot touch it. So the industry built a machine to solve that. The flush machine hooks into the cooler lines and uses pressure to push every last quart of old fluid out and new fluid in, all at once, in under an hour. Sounds thorough. Sounds worth $1,200. Here is what they do not tell you. Old transmission fluid is not just dirty oil. Suspended inside it is a fine dust of clutch material that has worn off over the years, and coating the inside walls of the transmission is a thin layer of varnish, baked on by heat, one summer at a time. In a transmission with 130,000 or 150,000 miles on it, the parts have worn together around that fluid. The clutches have thinned a little, and the grit in the old fluid is actually helping those worn clutches bite. The varnish has sealed around tired gaskets. It is not clean in there, but it is settled. Now push 14 quarts of fresh, detergent-rich fluid through that transmission under pressure. The detergents start dissolving varnish. The pressure knocks loose flakes of it, and all of that debris goes straight into the valve body, which is a maze of passages about the width of a pencil lead, with little spring-loaded valves that must slide freely for the transmission to shift. One flake in the wrong passage and a valve sticks. A valve sticks and a clutch pack burns. That is what happened to the Caravan. I did not clean it. I disturbed it. And while we are here, let me kill another lie. You have probably heard that modern transmissions have lifetime fluid that never needs changing. Ask yourself what lifetime means. It means the lifetime of the transmission. If the fluid wears out at 150,000 miles and the transmission dies at 160,000, the fluid lasted a lifetime. The sentence is true and it is worthless. It is a warranty word, not a maintenance plan. Because here is what fluid actually does in there. It is not just a lubricant, it is the working muscle of the whole machine. It carries the pressure that squeezes the clutches. It carries away the heat, and heat is the killer. Every degree over about 200 keeps cutting the life of that fluid, and stop-and-go traffic on a July afternoon gets you there easily. The additives that let the clutches grip without shudder wear out quietly, mile by mile, and there is no light on your dash for it. By 100,000 miles, that fluid has done more work than any other fluid in your car, and it has never once been thanked. So you are stuck between two bad answers. Never touch the fluid and let it wear the transmission out slowly, or pay $1,200 for a violent flush that might finish it off quickly. Except you are not stuck, because there is a third way, and it is the way Mr. Sato serviced every taxi and every delivery van in that Osaka garage. He never gave it a fancy name. He called it the 1/3 rule. You do not change transmission fluid, you dilute it. Think of a fish tank. If you have ever kept fish, you know you never change all the water at once. The shock kills the fish. You take out a third, you put in a third of fresh, and you do it again next week. The tank gets clean, and nothing ever notices the change. A transmission is the same animal. Drain the 3.5 quarts the plug gives you. Refill with fresh. Drive for a week so it blends through the torque converter. Then do it again. Then once more. Gentle, cheap, and nothing is ever disturbed. Let me walk you through it exactly the way I do it in my shop, with the prices and the part numbers, because the details are where this either works or leaks. Step 1, and do not skip it. Know your fluid. Open your glove box, take out the owner's manual, and find the exact fluid your transmission calls for. Not transmission fluid in general, the exact spec. A Toyota wants Toyota WS. A Honda wants DW1. A Nissan wants Matic S. You can buy the factory fluid at the dealership parts counter, and here is a trick most people never learn. The parts counter and the service department are different worlds. You can walk past the service advisors, buy Toyota WS for about $9 or $10 a quart, and walk out without anyone quoting you a thing. Or, for most cars more than a few years old, you can buy Valvoline Max Life multi-vehicle at any big box store for about $25 a gallon jug. Flip the jug over and read the back label. It lists the specs it meets. If your spec is on that list, it is fine fluid, and I have run it in my own truck for 11 years. While you are shopping, buy the drain plug crush washer for your car. It costs about $2. It is a soft metal ring that squashes once to make the seal, and it only squashes once. Reusing the old washer is how a 20-minute job turns into a slow drip on your garage floor for the next 2 years. Buy 3, 1 for each round. Step 2. The warm drain. Drive the car about 10 minutes, enough to warm the fluid so it drains fast, not so long that it will burn you. Park on level ground, or drive up on a pair of ramps if you need the room. Put a drain pan under the transmission, find the drain plug, and open it. On most Toyotas, it takes a plain 10mm hex key. Out comes your 3.5 quarts, and if you were expecting more, good. That is the whole point. We only ever take a third. Now here is the moment to stop and read what your transmission is telling you, because that drain plug has a magnet on the tip, and the magnet does not lie. Pull it out and look. A coat of soft gray paste like wet pencil dust is normal. Every transmission grows that beard, and it means nothing. But if you see glitter, actual shiny flakes, or slivers of metal you can feel with your fingernail, stop. Put the plug back in, top it up, and get the car looked at, because glitter means hard parts are wearing, and no fluid on earth fixes that. That 1 10-second look at the magnet tells you more than the dealership vial trick ever will. Step 3. Measure and match. Do not guess how much to put back in. Pour what came out of the pan into an empty fluid jug and look at exactly how much you got. 3.5 quarts out means 3.5 quarts in. Not 4 because the jug was open. Exactly what came out. On most cars, the fill point is up top or through a side fill plug, and a $12 hand transfer pump from the parts store makes it a 5-minute job. And hear me on this, too much fluid is worse than slightly too little. Overfill a transmission, and the spinning parts whip the fluid into foam, and foam does not lubricate, and foam does not shift gears. Measure what came out, match it. That habit alone puts you ahead of half the quick lube shops in the country. Step 4, drive the week. Put your new crush washer on, torque the plug snug, and just drive. Normal errands, about 100 miles, a week of ordinary heat cycles. Every mile, the torque converter is swirling your fresh fluid into the old, blending it the way cream blends into coffee. There is nothing to do in this step. The driving is the work. Step 5, do it again, and then once more. Round 2 the next weekend, round 3 the weekend after. 20 minutes each. After 3 rounds, do the math with me. Each drain removes about 1/3 of what is in there, so after 3 gentle rounds, nearly 3/4 of the fluid in that transmission is fresh, and it got that way without 1 ounce of pressure, without 1 flake of varnish knocked loose, without 1 valve disturbed. Mr. Sato's taxis got this treatment every year of their lives, and those transmissions simply did not die. Step 6. Check it hot. Fluid level in a transmission only reads true at operating temperature. If your car has a dipstick, check it with the engine idling in park after a drive. If it is one of the newer sealed units with an overflow plug instead, the fluid needs to be between about 104 and 113 degrees when you check, and a $20 infrared thermometer pointed at the pan tells you when you are there. Now add up my way. 9 or 10 quarts of fluid across 3 rounds. Call it $60 to $90 depending on what your car drinks. 3 crush washers, $6. A pump, $12. 1 Saturday hour, spread across 3 weekends. Against $1,190. And after this first season, maintenance is 1 single drain and fill every 30,000 miles. 20 minutes and about $25. Forever. That is the whole system. But before you go, I want to zoom out, because this was never really about fluid. A replacement transmission today costs $4,000 to $7,000 installed. For a lot of families, that number is the difference between keeping the car and taking on a loan for another one. The dealership knows that number too, and that is exactly why the flush pitch works. $1,200 sounds reasonable when the man in the clean shirt has just made you picture $6,000. That vial of dark fluid they show you is theater. Transmission fluid is supposed to darken. It starts bright pink and it browns with honest work, the same way a cast iron pan darkens, and the color alone tells you almost nothing. You know what tells you something? Smell. Pull your dipstick and smell it. Earthy and oily is fine. Burnt toast is trouble. Your nose is a better diagnostic tool than their vial, and your nose is free. Fear is the most expensive thing they sell, and they sell it by the quart. And let me put one more warning on the record, plain as I can make it. If you have a transmission past 120,000 miles that has never been serviced even once, the flush machine is the last thing that should ever touch it. That is the exact transmission the flush hurts most. And it is the exact transmission the flush gets sold to hardest, because that is the owner holding the scary vial. The 1/3 rule was built for that car. Gentle is not the slow way. Gentle is the only way that old iron forgives. In Osaka, the taxi companies figured this out decades ago, not because they loved their cars, but because they counted every yen, and the fleets that drained a little fluid every year kept their taxis on the road twice as long as the fleets that did nothing and prayed. Mr. Sato died in 2011. He was 91, and he worked until he was 86. He told me many things over 6 years, but there is one line I have repeated to every customer and both of my sons, and it is the point of this whole video. Care for a machine a little at a time, and it will never ask you for everything at once. That is it. That is the 1/3 rule, and it is also just true about most things a man is responsible for. The neglect does not send you a bill. The neglect waits, and then it sends you the whole bill on the worst possible day. So here is what I want you to do tonight before you forget this video ever existed. Walk out to your car, open the glove box, find the fluid spec and the capacity in the owner's manual. Write both on a sticky note and stick it inside the glove box door. 2 minutes. If you have a dipstick, pull it, look at the color, and smell it. That is your starting picture. This weekend, buy your fluid, your washers, and your pump, and do round 1. Then come back here and tell me in the comments what you drive, how many miles it has, and whether that fluid has ever once been changed. I read every single comment on these videos, and I answer the ones where somebody is about to get taken for $1,200. The next video is about your brakes, and it is going to sting a little, because I am going to show you the part of your brake system that nobody has cleaned since the day your car was built, and how Mr. Sato used a wire brush and a 10-cent smear of grease on that one hidden part to make brake pads last nearly twice as long. Most mechanics skip it because it does not show up on any invoice. Until then, keep your fluid fresh, keep your money in your pocket, and remember that the old men who kept machines alive for 50 years were not smarter than you. They just did small things on time.